Amendment 360 is straightforward. It would remove the word alarm from sections 4, 8 and 5 of the Public Order Act 1986. In Handyside versus the United Kingdom, the Strasbourg Court reminded us that freedom of expression protects ideas that, quote, offend, shock or disturb. This concept was reinforced in the oft-quoted dictum of Lord Justice Sedley, which I will not repeat again tonight, but which I sometimes think should be turned into a poster campaign by the police and CPS. In a democracy, robust debate, political, religious and philosophical debate will sometimes unsettle people. It may even alarm them, but that should not be a matter for the criminal law. Section 4.8 currently criminalises threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour that causes harassment, alarm or distress, where there is deemed to have been an intention to cause harassment, alarm and distress. In Section 5, the test is threatening or abusive words that are deemed likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress. Alarm is inherently subjective, often momentary, and is too easily confused with discomfort. It is an emotion. This is a dangerously low threshold for prosecuting people over words, especially in today's political climate, where so many people have been implicitly trained to respond to hearing challenging opinions by talking about how hurt their feelings are. I watched the video of Nick Timothy MP documenting Islamists outside the infamous Maccabees and Aston Villa match, and Islamists persuaded officers to move on Mr Timothy by complaining about him talking to them. We saw a similar attempt more recently on the streets of Whitechapel, where a crowd of men tried to get police to arrest a Christian street preacher in what they regard as some kind of ethnic enclave where preaching the gospel is prohibited. Thankfully, in that case, we saw that marvellously brave and sensible female police officer face them all down and defend free speech. And then there was the disgraceful prosecution of Hamid Koskun under Section 5 for burning a Quran, when we all know that there is not a chance that he would ever have been prosecuted for burning a Bible, and nor should he be. That brave officer in Whitechapel seems to be the exception. That's why she's been so widely praised. Too often, harassment, alarm or distress has proven a temptingly low threshold for police and prosecutors, resulting in overreach, something that the noble Baroness Lady Chakrabarti, who sadly tonight is not in her place, spoke to from her long experience when she supported my amendment in committee. My noble friend Lord Cameron of Lochiel also kindly supported this amendment, citing case law showing how elastic this concept has become. And we all know, my lords, the sort of absurdity and chilling effect that follows when the focus shifts from what was said and intended to how a complainant says they felt. The Minister argued fairly that removing alarm might reduce the ability to intervene early, for example with a drunken individual causing upset on a late-night train. But where conduct is genuinely menacing, it will ordinarily amount to harassment or perhaps distress, although I'll come back to that shortly. And where appropriate, other offences exist for threats, intimidation and violence. And the common law offence of breach of the peace exists to help police control these kinds of situations by giving them a power to arrest and release. I do not accept that we need this additional malleable concept, one that has drifted far beyond what Parliament intended to keep the public safe. Indeed, the Minister noted these provisions were introduced under Mrs Thatcher's government in 1986. That is precisely the point. The language has not stood still. In the decades since, academic and political activism has increasingly elevated hurt feelings into a right not to be offended. And too often, police and prosecutors under pressure take allegations of alarm far too seriously. Words like alarm, and sometimes even distress, now risk being interpreted through a modern lens that is much more censorious than Parliament ever intended. Since committee, I have been reflecting on whether we should look again not only at alarm but also at distress, and perhaps even the residual role of insulting in this area. But for now, this amendment still focuses on alarm. It is a simple, moderate change which we could make right now to try to address the problem I'm trying to highlight. The Minister referred last time to the review being carried out by the noble and learned Lord MacDonald of River Glaven. I look forward to the conclusions of that review. Lord MacDonald is widely respected as a former Director of Public Prosecutions, sensible both on protecting the public and on the proper scope of free speech. But I would say this, the very fact that such a review is needed underlines the concern that the law is currently too broad, too vague and too easily misapplied. In conclusion, I ask the Government to think again. Removing alarm would send a clear signal that speech which merely offends, shocks or unsettles is part of the rough and tumble of living in a free society, the currency of the marketplace of ideas, and not a criminal offence. My Lords, I beg to move.